Let's talk about what's going on in Boulder, Colorado. Because I think Deion Sanders is still the most fascinating man in college football, regardless of what that final record says. But it's been an interesting last couple of months with what's going on there. Started out hot, 3-0, got College game day coming to Boulder, Colorado, finished the season 4-8. So the question obviously now is, where do we go from here? How do we right this ship? They have 10 commitments right now in the class of 2024. They lost 3 commitments in the span of like the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Okay, it was a quick couple of decommitments, couple of quarterbacks that decided they no longer wanted to take their talents to Boulder, Colorado. So this isn't great to have obviously losing guys that were going to go play for your football team, that were high-profile guys for the most part. I think we just got to take an overall, all-encompassing look at what's going on right now in Boulder. First things first, make sure to subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, only college football, every single day. We appreciate y'all for that. So what I want to say about the 2023 campaign for Coach Prime and company, in a lot of ways it was a success. And the bar was set pretty low from the year before. They won 1 game. This year they won 4, and you became relevant nationally. You were the hottest story in sports, not just college football, for a long period of time. Like, everyone was talking about Deion, and we're all watching Colorado State like 1 in the morning. Like, it legitimately was iconic in a lot of ways. And then the losses started to happen. Because I don't have a problem with 4-8. If you told me at the beginning of the year, hey, Coach Prime and company, they're going 4-8. I would have said, okay, that's actually exactly what we predicted them to go. We thought they'd be 4-8. But the unfortunate part of this is it was the one kind of 4-8 that you couldn't have happen. Like, after the 3-0 start, to then go 1-8 from that point forward, losing like your last 6 or so in a row, the optics of that is what really is difficult right now. Because when it comes to recruiting, so much of what you do is selling snapshots to people. Like, hey, this is what we are right now. Come be a part of this. Help us build on that. And that snapshot early in the year was phenomenal. But the snapshot you ended with in Boulder, Colorado is concerning. And going back to what I said about optics, when it comes to acquiring talent, optics is a big part of that. And whether it's true or not, whether it's fair or not, the optics at Boulder, Colorado right now under Coach Prime is dysfunctional. And there's a couple of things to look at here, like your quarterback getting sacked over 50 times. Screams dysfunction. Screams we're not going the right place with the football. Screams we don't have the guys we need on the line of scrimmage. That's obvious. Also, your demoted offensive coordinator, the individual that you believe wasn't the right guy calling plays after your offense was actually really successful, just took a head coaching job. So under Deion Sanders, they say, hey, he's not fit to be our OC. Another school comes in and says, well, he's good enough to be our head coach. Not a great look. Not a great look. And the cherry on top of all of that, like, there have been reports now about lacking coverage with insurance for some of these players. Again, screaming dysfunction. And dysfunction is like recruit repellent. It makes people nervous. Like, that's kind of where we stand right now with Colorado. The whole thought around this year, the whole thing that they built up from that 3-0 start was some trust, some rapport that, hey, this thing is headed a certain direction under Deion Sanders. Hey, you're going to come here and have a ton of national attention. We're going to win football games. And they still might do that. Again, they won more football games than they did a season ago. In a lot of ways, you can call this year a success, but the optics you're left with after this season make it a thing where, yes, you covered some ground, but I still think you're at square one if you're Coach Prime and company. Because the plan was, hey, win a lot, win enough, rather, make a bowl game, be able to have something you can put forward from an optics perspective and a snapshot perspective to these recruits. And then, yes, we still go to the portal to kind of keep this whole thing rolling how we want it to go. But really, we lean a little bit more heavily this upcoming season on some high school talent, being able to get some young guys from the high school level to help us and build it a little bit more organically that way. Okay, I'm just going to say this. There's a reason now why Alabama and Georgia and Michigan, like, yes, Michigan went to the portal a little bit more this past offseason, but for the most part, like, those are teams that build at the high school level. You don't have to go and add in the portal what you can develop in the backyard, okay? And that's kind of what they have in-house with those teams. So I think that's what Colorado was striving to do. And unfortunately, with the optics now and where you stand on the recruiting trail, you're going to have to go back to the transfer portal. And it's not going to be the total overhaul that it was last year, but you still have to, I believe, lean pretty heavily on a lot of those players. Now, the obstacle with that is, one, is there space on your roster to do that? And two, are you going to be able to get the guys through the portal able to play right away? Because we've seen the NCAA now. You can't necessarily trust the NCAA to be the the definition of common sense. The whole Tez Walker thing should be a pretty direct implication of that. I don't know if all the guys you get through the portal will be able to play right away based on all the stuff they're doing right now to crack down on that whole multiple-time transfer rule and the one-time transfer rule. So all that's to say, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to reshape your roster this offseason if you're Coach Prime and company the way that you need to, okay? But I want to make sure. We said all these things about Deion Sanders and the way that it's looking right now and what's been tough about it. That's all true. We're not backing off of that. Yes, they became more relevant. The optics are bad right now. Screams dysfunction. But here's the one thing we got to make sure we take into account. Deion Sanders is not your average college football coach. Colorado is not your average college football team. On top of that, they're not covered like the average college football team. When it comes to their attention and their exposure, anything Colorado does, the impact of that, the ripple effect, can be 10x. You don't believe me? They got College Game Day there when they're playing a Group of 5 team. Okay, they got Colorado State, Colorado. It's a rivalry game, sure, but they were 3-0. You got College Game Day in town. Okay, that doesn't really happen. It's not a thing that College Game Day makes a habit of doing. So I'm just saying, for all the negative things we're talking about with Deion Sanders in Colorado, if they're able to recreate some of that magic, if you're able to get a little bit better optically, provide a little more structure, that thing is going to churn at a quicker rate from a success standpoint than it would somewhere else. Like, it is easier with Deion Sanders to be your head coach to get more out of a win on the recruiting trail and on the exposure and just overall like branding than it would be at another place that's in the same spot as Colorado with a different head coach who doesn't have the star power and charisma of a Deion Sanders. They're going to do their YouTube channel. They're going to be out in front of the mic. They're going to kill it on social media. They're going to kill it on all the hype videos, all the promos. Like, they will crush it on that aspect. If they get something on the field to push that way, I'm just saying, don't leave Colorado for dead. Do not leave Colorado for dead. And for Deion Sanders, I would not bet against him when it comes to acquiring talent. Is it still a little bit more of an uphill battle than you would like? Probably so. Yeah, probably a true statement. But the effort to right the ship here is not a losing game if you're Deion Sanders. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on what's going on in Boulder, Colorado. When this portal opens up on December 4th, there's going to be a lot to talk about. I expect Colorado to be in the mix. Also, National Signing Day. We'll have a live show as well. Josh Newberg, myself, Chad Simmons, like we'll talk a lot about these teams making moves on signing day. Would not surprise me in the slightest if Deion Sanders and company are a mover and a shaker when it comes to National Signing Day and what's going on there. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.